Earlier in the program, we talked about the presidential campaign. Now we'll continue that discussion as we talk about the issues the candidates face during the debates. Here again are Professor Marriah Starr, and again with us on the phone is the political strategist, Armen Meyer. Thanks for being here again, gentlemen.
Nice to be here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Back to our discussion. Tell us about how the candidates stand on the two biggies, the war and the economy.
Well, on the Democratic side, Barack Obama, of course, wants to bring the troops home from Iraq. He believes, as most Democrats do, that the invasion was a mistake, that the war has been mismanaged horribly by the Bush administration, and that the best course for U.S. troops is to come home as soon as possible. And so he has submitted legislation to bring them home by March 2008.
Armen, down in D.C., give us a picture of how the candidates stand on the war specifically, but also how that relates to the economy.
Sure. Let's start with Hillary. I think she made a mistake of a vote, and she knows it, several years ago to give the president the war power here. I do think she's done everything in her power to rectify it. And like Obama and like John Edwards and like some of the candidates wants to bring the troops home now. I think, though, they can have the debate over timeline and how many troops to leave in and how and which date, that date. But at the end of the day, it kind of comes down to the fact that we need someone who really can work well with military commanders, can work well with the Senate and the House, who has the experience to do it in a way that's going to take into consideration all the complications, which is, are we going to have to break this country off eventually? Are we going to have to work with folks who aren't our friends, like perhaps Syria, out there in order to keep Iraq stable? And it's going to require some gravitas and someone who really has command on the issues. And Hillary, of course, demonstrates that. She also, let's not forget, has a husband who's been doing this for a long time, too, who's very well respected around the world, who will also be able to lend not just advice, but diplomatic strength, because it's going to require serious diplomacy.
That's very true. Now let's talk dollars and cents. Professor Starr, talk about the economy. How are we going to, what are we going to look like at the end of the month, essentially, the average American, based on who we put in office?
Well, the economic scene is changing dramatically at this very moment. What you have are three different fundamentals. First, the real American wage has not risen since the 70s. The job growth has only benefited the top 0.01% of the economy. So as a result, you have Americans who don't make as much money as they did in real terms back in the 70s, but they have to pay for health care, education. So you have Americans using their house mortgages in order to pay for this stuff.
How are your choices for both Democrat as well as Republican going to address that?
Well, the mortgage market is collapsing, and that's bringing the economy down with it. And so you have Democratic and Republican candidates both addressing that issue. The Democratic candidate, Barack Obama, he has said there needs to be more regulation of the mortgage industry. The other Democratic candidate, Joe Biden, has said that the Federal Reserve needs to take action to help stanch the market losses. So basically, you have this crisis that is brewing, and if the federal government does nothing about it, you'll have lots of homeless Americans in November 2008.
And what about Senator McCain? What about, I'm sorry, your choice was Mitt Romney.
Mitt Romney, yes. Mitt Romney has not really spoken on the economy yet, largely because he isn't affected by it. He's a multimillionaire former governor, so he has not been affected by the mortgage crisis or even the stock market. He's worth $400 million. So he has not been forced to address that yet. But I suspect he will address it fairly soon because it will help to distinguish him from his other rivals, Giuliani and McCain.
I see. Armen, how about you? What are your thoughts on dollars and cents and the candidates that you have chosen?
Sure. I like Hillary on the economy a lot. One, for the macroeconomic reasons that the professor just laid out. Certainly, the mortgage issue is gigantic. And other macro issues, such as, at some point, folks are going to lose a lot of faith in our dollar, as has happened under George Bush with our weakening dollar. And guess what? They pull out of our investments, our interest rates skyrocket because we don't have the free, easy money we've had all this time. We're going to go back to the economy that Bill Clinton came into, where we really needed to lower the deficit in a really thoughtful way in order to make sure money and interest rates were low for folks to invest and start businesses and do things that entrepreneurs do. But more importantly than the macroeconomic, I think Hillary kind of gets, and a lot of people don't, that the economy is more than just these numbers and these charts. It's also how you invest in young people through education. We need a great workforce to stay competitive. How you make sure labor standards stay high, and are we going to spread wealth through a minimum wage, through labor standards, through affordable health care. These are things that I don't know if people associate with the economy as much as they should, but I think they really do go hand in hand.
That's true. Tell us about McCain. Where does McCain can he sort of understand and is he familiar enough with the average American, which is the big question in 2008?
I think he is, and the reason I say that is because I think he has a sense that people feel like the government isn't serving them, and that they feel like, to a large degree, that someone else is getting the share of the pie and I'm not. And they're right to think that, because there are certainly an elite that's capitalizing on the levers of government. And McCain, the reason I like McCain in this respect is because he's really proven to crack down on fraud and favoritism in several respects. Number one, I guess earmarks were the big debate 6 months ago, and they still are. He's just been such a hawk on earmarks and pet projects and doing things so that, we can retain money for all people, not just putting into bridges to nowhere for Ted Stevens in Alaska, maybe investing in bridges to somewhere. Also, getting big money out of politics has been a priority of his, and it's another way to empower smaller people to make your vote matter more than your dollar. And, he has made mistakes, but I think that his straight-talking ways are still true. I wish he hadn't gone to the Falwell embrace. Mm-hmm. But he still is a guy who's taken unpopular positions and built compromise around them in order to get things done.
If I may say, his credibility as a straight talker has taken a huge hit.
That's very true. Let's get a wrap-up here from both perspectives here. Where are we going to be? Give us a picture of post-2008 based on who we put in office, and also, recognizing that it's really important for every person to vote. And this very, really crucial issue of the war. How are we going to move forward on this?
Well, in 2009, when the new president takes his inaugural address, you will see for the first time in roughly 80 years a unique position: war and recession. That new president will have a major challenge. And if they don't have the best team and the brightest minds, they will not do a good job, because there are just too many major factors out there. So the troops, of course, will have to come home eventually. The economy will have to start to be repaired. So you're going to see a president on the Democratic side. Obama will try to raise taxes to help address the deficit. On the Republican side, Mitt Romney, he will most likely try to bring the troops home in an honorable way. So you will see them making the best effort to balance these two major structural forces.
Armen, on the phone, give us the big picture going forward from 2008, from our decision. What is the country going to look like?
It's going to be a little bit bleak in some respects, in that America may very well have to admit that Iraq is not going to work, and even a McCain is going to have to admit that. So you're going to see America that, again, has to withdraw from a country that it made a mistake going into in the first place. And the key is going to be, can we recover from that? And how we handle that withdrawal, engaging a larger world community, and whether or not we can convince the world that it's not just, that this wasn't the America that they've grown, this isn't the same, that this is a new America. We acknowledge we made a mistake. And it's not going to be the America going forward that just blindly invades nations without the consent of the world.
Okay, we have just a few seconds left. And I just wanted to thank both of our guests, Professor Marriah Starr here in the studio, and political strategist Armen Meyer on the phone in D.C. And I want to throw it out to our viewers and say the decision lies with you, and the responsibility and the power, essentially. After another quick break, we'll return with a man whose work warrants more than 1,000 words. That and more when Open returns.